Hello and welcome to UK Versus, bringing you theories, news and more, win, lose or draw, as we go into our part 2 of a deep dive into Red Horizon. Last time we brought you the information as to why UFS needed Red Horizon, how the Red Horizon set came to be, and the kind of troubles and obstacles it faced on its way to getting us to where it is today, as well as how when Cody got on the scene, how the law wise was a lot of show, a lot of like outer design, but once you opened up the hood, there was really nothing underneath. So before we get into deeper story of what's actually happening in Red Horizon now, we thought that it'd be better to move beyond the cards and talk about the world of Red Horizon, the law, the kind of how the world came to be as it is. Before we get into that, I'm of course joined by the Red Horizon lawkeeper and master author of the Red Horizon Chronicles, Cody Kent. How are you doing, my friend?
I like how I have two titles. I like how I have two titles on that. I have the Lord Keeper and the Master. Ooh, look at me. The inspiration of Red Horizon as a concept, kind of from what was told to me, it was a lot of like, what if these cool things were here? And much like we covered in the first episode, is the inspirations that I took when it came to the story in the world, right? It's based on many anime kind of things. I want to say shonen type things, but I actually am not a fan of shonen anime a lot of the time, so that's actually not what most of the inspiration comes from. People often look at Red Horizon and think, "Oh, that's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure," and I was like, "Well, yeah, it looks like that, but to be honest, I've told this to people before. It's like you think I took something from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Meanwhile, as I push like three other things under the bed that it took inspiration from. It's like, yeah, JoJo's Bizarre.
I mean, from what I've read, it feel although like it has those JoJo's inspirations, that's more like you said the flash and the outer layer of it. But when you actually get deeper into it, like you said, it's more Code Geass, Classroom of the Elite. It's more of a political, strategic drama where more like a Doctor Stone Shojin of the mind, like all these political parties, all these things.
When it comes to action, I'm not good at that. But if you give me two guys in a room talking about whatever, oh boy, you got me there. Two people just talking, like No Country for Old Men, like two people just in a gas station just talking and being threatening to each other, right? But like to use Doctor Stone as a reference, Doctor Stone to me, I actually like that show.
Hmm.
But the minute they start doing things that most shonen anime start doing, like stop that. Go back to the science stuff. Give me that. I don't care about who's fighting. I want the science. Give me that. The actual inspirations for me in terms of writing Red Horizon come from three things. One you may or may not be aware of, the Fate universe, the
Yeah.
Nasuverse, Fate Stay Night, Kara no Kyokai, Mahoyo, like all of the things that Kinoko Nasu has done because I've been a big fan of his. And if you look at the Fate series, it's like, oh man, you got these really cool like ancient heroes that are like these really cool powers and all that stuff. But then when you actually look at the layers of it, it's not even about who they are as heroes, it's about who they are as people.
Yeah.
This is a treatise on the human condition. You look at Alexander the Great when he's summoned in Fate,
Oh.
and it's like he goes like, "Oh man, I wasn't blonde at all."
Alexander the
And
Great was such a good Fate Zero character.
and in general, you look at characters like Kukulin, and you see like this is a guy who loves to fight and is more true to his initial legend. But this is just a guy who is very loyal, who will stick up for anyone who is his lord, and would like just fist bump you on the way out when he's about to go die. It's like you would never see these kinds of things. Or you look at the main character. You have King Arthur, the legend, and then you have the person.
Yeah.
The person who saw many things, has a lot of regrets in life, never got to be a person, never got to experience these things, and was only ever a political pawn. And that's the interesting part. Not the fact that they can wave a sword and yell Excalibur and blow somebody up, right? That's really what it comes down to with the same thing for Red Horizon. Is like you have all of these amazing ideas, but let's take it down for a second, talk about the people and how this affects them. The second actually is World of Darkness, Changeling, Werewolf, Vampire the Masquerade. If you actually look at any of those series, it's not about like the vampires, the werewolves, and the changelings. It's about how does this magical underworld exist at the same time as the real world, and how does the real world jive with that? The White Wolf series in general was also another inspiration. And the third one actually kind of is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but that's actually like 20% while the 40 and 40 are up here, right?
I mean, it depends on where in the JoJo timeline you're coming from, because it does get progressively more like surreal.
So the actual inspiration not comes from the story of JoJo, but how the author Hirohiko Araki does things. When he says, there's this famous meme of a superhero with the power to create bubblegum. And it's like, oh, look at him. He's stupid. He's a stupid little hero over there. Look at him. And they're all laughing and pointing at him. But then you hear in JoJo's where I have the power to create bubblegum. And he's like the most insane villain that you've ever seen. And he he puts bubblegum in your lungs and you're suffocating now. It's like, all right, it's more so the execution of the things that you're saying. It was why I always liked Araki's work. It's all about execution. And that really is like the 20% of it was like I would always go back to how could I take this idea and make it interesting rather than just going by the surface thing of yes, person is strong, but then what does that actually mean? Like what is having the healing factor that Wolverine has? What does that actually mean for the world? Like what does that mean for like if a person has the healing factor that Wolverine has? How freaky is that actually when you look at like the realistic applications to that?
What would it be like if the government found it and didn't use him as a weapon, but say used him as a donor farm or used him to research cures for diseases and how his body reacts, and if it could be used by other people? You've got this one linear thing of turn him into a weapon, and then you've got all these other ones of but it could have also been used for all these other things that would have been better than can't die, throw them at enemies.
Yeah. So that was the first concept that I took, and when it came to applying these logics to the world, it's like, yes, what if somebody just had the healing factor that Wolverine has? How could you monetize that? That's really the core inspirations, is take an idea and apply it in the most clever way possible, on top of the other two.
So for Red Horizon, it's these Guardians, it's the different energies, it's the vampires, werewolves, cowboys, and more. How is the world adapting to all this because of the influences of the higher and lower realms?
This is where I take a step back in terms of a timeline, right? So it was always told to me by Jason that there was only ever one person that was either blessed by a guardian or an awakened person. An awakened person we'll get to in a second, like once per generation. And even then, it might not go noticed. Who knows? Because 1 in 6 billion people, how would that person even understand that they have like the healing factor? Or who would they even talk to? It's in like a rural village in like Manchuria or something. Or like in the village of Cornwall, there is a man who knows how to make soil grow real fast. Does he even understand what he's doing? Who knows? He might just be a guy just living his daily life to life and might die just not knowing.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's sort of like the theory of shared evolution. Like, in other parts of the world, people will progress with the same ideas around similar times, even though they're continents apart.
Yeah. So this is where we go a bit back. So we're going to talk a bit order here because again we're still using bullet points here. The ether and the abyss. Now we talked about it in the first episode. How would humanity change if heaven and hell were actually real? Like how would that actually affect humanity throughout history? And we're talking about 6,000 plus years ago. Like we're like Babylonia and ancient China, right? or Indus River Valley, or Norte Chico, right? Like all of these, or the Aztec Empire. What did the Mayans look to when they saw the stars? Like maybe they saw something else in general, and slowly over time, humans interacting with these essentially different planes of existence, much like you said, shared evolution. These things were stronger than them, either subjugated them or possibly allied with them in some point or another. Humans began to evolve in certain ways. And I'm talking evolving spiritually, not like physical. Or some physical, but mostly spiritual. So humans began to evolve to and adapt to these presences in their lives. And slowly, humans began to realize their full potential in general. It wasn't like a common thing, but we're talking like maybe 1 in 100.
Yeah.
The people that you like, example, let's use an example. Heracles, not Hercules, because these are different things. Heracles had the 8 trials, or the 12 trials, 8 trials, 12 trials,
12 trials.
What if all of those trials were things that he had to deal with regarding a otherworldly influence? You know, Heracles, the man who went insane and killed his family because someone decided I was a bit too jealous of him, right?
So what if the impenetrable lion he faced in the fields of Africa wasn't a regular lion, if it was a demonic lion sent there from
Possibly.
the abyss? And yeah,
like what if the person who, let's just say, Prometheus. I was about to say the god of the forge, but I mixed up. Yeah, I mixed up in my head all the time. What if Prometheus stole power from, instead of what we would have thought of the gods, or what if he stole power from the abyss or the ether instead?
yeah. So rather than the fire of the gods to light up the world, he stole the light of the ether to help humanity.
Mm-hmm. And what if the ether also didn't like that and chained his ass to a rock to have his liver being eternally eaten by a vulture?
Yeah.
They probably didn't like that either.
And because it was, say, 6,000 years ago, you could have had unions between humans and abyss dwellers and ethers that have had their bloodline diluted over 6,000 years. So
Sure.
would awaken like this spiritual evolution just through bloodline.
So eventually, this kind of, if you look at a lot of things in mythology, this always ends up in some kind of huge clash between man and God, or to the heavens and hells, and hell, even the Titans from Greek mythos. Maybe the Titans were abyssal creatures. Who knows? Maybe there was a god, a Hades, down there somewhere. But I'm mostly saying this from the perspective of, we don't know because it's been too long. And it's kind of been lost to time as to what these things actually were. So, to really get into it, the abyss and the ether, this is where I'm bringing up another point here. These are 2 planes of existence that are diametrically opposed to each other. As to why, most of them can't tell you. The ether tends to be law, tends to be structure, tends to be very restrictive, while the abyss is freedom. Do whatever you want. Might is right because that just seems to work for them. Whoever is the strongest obviously is the one who belongs on top, versus a structure in the ether. Now, these are often depicted in history as like angelic beings or demonic beings, but it's not always that. Sometimes it could be something else. But as far as humanity is concerned, the "be not afraid," the 6-winged angel with like the 100 eyes, maybe that was just something that a human could not understand. Perhaps that was something he looked up and went, "Ho, what the hell's that?" Or possibly it was just your buddy tempting you with something you shouldn't be doing in your everyday life. Maybe that was a person who was with the abyss. Who knows? But at the end of the day, what it really said for humanity was, there are these 2 powers that are predatory in nature. They seek to use, possibly abuse, and maybe just outright control the humans. And that's when humanity started to figure it out. And a lot of them, that's where you read all these like histories and stories of like man versus God, right? Possibly when you think about it, all right, that's maybe like maybe there's a little bit more to that. Think of any Bible story or any like mythological story. And this comes up in volume 2, and this is more so not a knock on Christianity or whatever, but like the story of Job.
Hmm.
The man who thought he did no wrong, but he was being challenged by the gods. And in the story of Job, it doesn't really matter what happens in there. It's just it is a man who believes he has done no wrong, and yet he is having all of these problems. And at the end of the story, he looks to God and say, "Hey," shakes fist. And what if it wasn't what he thought it was that talked back to him? Not that like heaven good, hell bad. That's not even a part of the story here. Like whatever side is whatever side. It doesn't matter. It's just what did he see when he looked to the sky, and what spoke back to him is what's important.
So what?
And that,
So what's the end game? Like you said, in mythology, it's a case of belief powers them, or your soul will go up or down depending on how you act, and that's where the temptation aspect is. But from what I'm seeing here, it's kind of like these two, like I said, diametrically opposed realms have come to kind of war over humanity. But what's the end game? Why did it? Why humanity? Why Earth? Why are they doing this?
well, that is a well to be the little facetious little shit. That's the reason to read the book. But if you were to ask someone like again Natali would tell you this is a fight that I don't care for. I don't give a shit who wins. I'm interested in your boy, me, and whoever fights and wins, I'm going to win at the end of the day. But then you look at someone on the ether, and they're more interested in just maintaining order, and they see the abyss as parasites moving on to worlds, and we are here to follow and stop them. Now, does that really create more of a problem because now it's just two people abusing a race of people to save them? That's really what you'll have to find out eventually after you read. But that's sort of the point: is what is the end game of these two unfathomable things that are using us as pawns?
Yeah.
That's really the thing you're supposed to find out. But is it really important in the end when we're looking at these people down here in this big scale? We're focused on the thing down here, the scale's up here. The scale doesn't matter. We're focused on the people affected by all of this.
Yeah.
That's really what I was getting to about the inspiration earlier with the Fate series. We learned that wizards exist in the Fate universe. What does that mean? Well, we're not worried about that. That's over there. We're worried about this over here. That's the story that is being told.
So
and that's where your mind can wander and your mind can think about these things.
yeah. So kind of like with the Godzilla movies, where it's like Godzilla's fighting this other kaiju, but how's Steven getting on with his stepkids? That's the real story we need to know about.
We have these two tiny ladies, and when they sing, a giant moth shows up. Hold on, how? And you're like, don't worry about it. That's not important. The two tiny ladies are the keeper of Mothra. How are they the keeper of Mothra? I don't know, but look at the big monster. But being facetious aside, that is actually what the point of the story is, and what we're going to find out as it goes on, right? Is what is the point? Because eventually these people who eventually will become aware, they will ask that same question alongside the reader. But, and to move on to the next one, what is a guardian and what is an awakened? Now, if you look on any of the cards, you will see, for Lily, you'll see these skeletons. For Reese, you'll see this man in this giant blue armor. For Vincent Gray, you'll see this Firebird. And that is a guardian. A guardian is what happens when an awakened being, much like I said earlier, a human or a thing that has realized their true potential and become spiritually strong, Well, what would happen if their physical form dies? They're kind of just here now. Like they are so strong that they do not have to pass on if they don't want to. So they can just stay on Earth, do whatever they want, but they're mostly just spirits. Think of like an ancient, like, you know what? Let's use an idea from a Disney movie, Mulan. You know when Mushu goes up and starts ringing the bell and getting all the ancestor spirits out, they all kind of sit around the little table and go, yes, yes, ancient spirit stuff. And that's essentially it. What if these spirits still exist in everyday things? Of like storied heroes that give inspiration. And the thing is, humans may or may not be able to see them. Because they're spirits. Not everyone is spiritually aware, especially in the modern day. That's like someone who's like, oh, I see ghosts at night. It's like, do you really see ghosts? Well, maybe he does.
So, to carry on with the like anime analogies, similar to like a Dandadan situation where the spirits exist and they get more powerful the longer they're around, and and they can bond and lend their powers to humans to help them if they want to.
Yeah, so that was pretty much just the basic idea. Is a guardian is one of those things that you heard about in history. King Arthur, Hercules, the Phoenix, Fenrir from Norse mythos, these kind of things like that. And then you have the awakened, and then they become guardians as they pass on. And now you have what a soulbound is. I was always told it was a dumb name to begin with. And it sort of is, but I didn't really find a need to change it at all. A soulbound is a person who is spiritually aware, and the guardian has decided to bind themselves to you. Now, the guardians, they're just people like you and me. They probably have their reasons for doing it. They probably have, hey, look, I want to hang out with this guy for a bit. What's going on over here? Or they might be more of a force of nature kind of thing, a la the phoenix. The phoenix is just a bird that is representative of life and death, the reincarnation cycle. Why would it have a reason to bind to somebody? It's more of a primal thing than anything else. It's more of like a spiritual need or a spiritual want or a representative of something. It's kind of hard to tell with each one.
So soul binding could just be like the phoenix coming across a spirit that resonates with them, like on a primal level. And for spirits like the Templar, they see a strong, courageous, strong, immoral individual and go, well, they can kind of recognize they're in for a fight. I'm going to back this horse.
Yeah. And the one thing to note is that this is a permanent thing until the user dies, or until the thing that they bound to dies.
Yeah.
So to give an example, Reese is, despite what people might think, Reese is a main character. This is more of an ensemble cast thing, right? Arthur, it's actually in the first chapter, so it doesn't really matter. It's King Arthur. Reese is King Arthur. King Arthur at some point. Possibly his descendant. Reese doesn't know. That's what something Arthur had said at one point. But Arthur doesn't realize he doesn't know that he's a descendant either. He's like, but I saw a courageous spirit in need of guidance, and here I am. This is not really a spoiler. This is what he says in like the first chapter. So it's fine. Get the hell out of here. But possibly it was just something he felt like he needed to do at the time. Now, something for Lily. Hers is a bit different. Now, here's where we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what a guardian is. A guardian is essentially a sentient being that feels that it does what it wants to do. It may have its own plans, it may have its own things, who knows? But they are reflective of who they were in life. And this is, again, where I take the ideas and try to apply them in a very, very interesting way. So, much like you kind of alluded to, there is a compatibility system. The more compatible you are with your spirit, the essentially stronger you are. Now, this ranges from 0 to 100, essentially, like 0% to 100%. Obviously, there has to be a 0 and there has to be a 100. to give an example, Vincent Gray is 100% compatible with his. There is no delineation. They are basically one and the same. They have the same mindset. They got the same wavelength, and that there is no real difference between the two. Reese is more of a 70%, but that's mostly because he can easily speak to Arthur, rather with Vincent, it's more like a feeling. Like the Phoenix is not intelligent. It's more like a I feel someone there. They're talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Versus Reese going, "Hey, what's up? What's going on? Ah, man, I'm doing fine." You fucking high five your guy. Lily is the same as Reese, except hers is quite different in comparison to Arthur and the Phoenix. Now, I've said King Arthur, Uther Pendragon, and the Phoenix, which is the mythological thing. Now, let's take that same idea and apply it to something more recent in history. What would it be like to have an idea become the embodiment of what a guardian would be, rather than like a physical concept?
Ooh.
So, what would the idea be if it's everyone believed in something and it became true over time? They're called the Rowdy Bunch. And they are not people specifically, but a concept. It is Western justice, it's vigilantism. And these are the people who defended humanity while they were doing that. And possibly, we don't know what happened. Again, this kind of stuff is lost to history. Maybe the things that they encountered in the Wild West were, again, maybe influenced by the ether or the abyss. No one really knows because they didn't really understand it at the time. And for Lily, it is the concept of the Western justice. That's hers. Now they don't speak to her because they're not people. Again, this is more like a vibe thing, like the Phoenix. But then you have on the sliding scale of 100 to 0, and again, this is covered in Volume 1 for that read people in the description of the previous video or this one. You can always read the book for free. Miska's is Fenrir. Obviously, if you could tell by the giant silver wolf, haha, right? Fenrir is not compatible with Miska at all. Goose egg. Meaning that, like, her ability to do anything is at the whim of this spirit. And they're often at odds with each other. But that also adds a dynamic of they're here. Obviously, he's here for a reason. And we'll find out over time as to why it's like that. But Fenrir openly just speaks to Miska. Like, yeah, sure, I'm here. You can talk to me. That doesn't mean I like you. But they often at ends, and there's like the dynamic of that.
Yeah.
And the one that's not revealed, and because it hasn't been revealed in the story yet at all, is Alice. Alice is the last soulbound person, aside from Roy, but Roy's like an NPC that we all thought, like, haha, he's something over there, right? And it's kind of like very easy to glean from. Hers is King Solomon, son of David.
I mean, the grandest wizard in history, aside from Merlin.
The biggest wizard. But and this is again where if you look at all of the things that we have spoken about now, right? And here's where Solomon is one of those things that's more recent in human history, or recent, quote unquote. If you want to think of the story of any kind of thing involving Solomon at all, or Judaism in general, you can then take a look at, with what I just explained over this episode, Solomon is not a biblical figure. He was someone that was alive or did exist at some point. If you look at all the stories about Solomon, he was a man who sought knowledge and sought most things that would not be okay in certain contexts, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking like a mythological thing, not the actual person, right?
No, there's a big crossover between Solomon and the Library of Alexandria.
Mm-hmm. What if that man was blessed by a certain group of a certain side, and then once he started looking into, because he wanted to know stuff, he's like, "Oh, hey, cool, you guys are up there, fucking fist bump. I love you guys up there." But Solomon was always a man who wanted to know things, and then when he started to look to the other side, like, what's going on down there? Perhaps the ones above may or may not have liked that.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the story of Solomon and then the whole his kingdom falling and being separated and all. Like that's what I mean at the start of this episode. Take something like the idea of King Solomon or King David and apply what I just said to it. What actually changes? And you go, hold on. This is where you start pulling at these little threads of like maybe the things that Solomon did in all of the mythos of what he has done, how does that apply? Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. That's kind of what I'm getting at in terms of the story of Red Horizon.
Like I said last week, what if this story of Uther, Arthur Pendragon, was one where the Ether blessed them with a sword to protect Avalon, and the other side didn't like that because they had plans for Avalon.
What if Morgan Le Fay was not was possibly on the other side of that argument?
Exactly. Going the other way around it of what if similar to Solomon, because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. A king with a holy sword in charge of an entire kingdom may look and go, well, I need more power, I need more land, so might dip into the depths of the rebellion, and then the Ether go, we need to put an end to this. And Morgan Le Fay, who has been depicted sometimes as being the person to bring down Camelot because it was wielding wild magic.
Perhaps, and like you said, at the same time, Morgan Le Fay may have been evil, or she was probably the person who brought things to justice.
Yeah.
That's really up, and that's really what the point of when I came to it was. Let's take these ideas and let people's brains run with it.
Does an awakening have to be mutual? Going off like the Fate Stay Night and other things like that. With things like JoJo and stuff like that, it's kind of like something that happens to them over time as they awaken. But Fate Stay Night is a ritual; it's a contract. Is there a way to force awakenings onto people?
Well, so that's something that will be covered eventually, but it can be in any way. Like as long as at some point that human has realized their true potential via anything. This is more again a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Like Faust, the famous Dr. Faust. Maybe he did make a bargain with a demon and then became what he did. Sure, that's possible. Like, it's very open ended because that's actually sort of the intent. Is like, what if somebody eventually, as their village burned down, they find out that their village was burned down by the ether and went, nope, I'm gonna shake fist at the sky and I'm gonna vow revenge, and then like they eventually through their own machinations they figure out how, or they do awaken over time. It's how it happens is very much so irrelevant.
Yeah,
it's a concession to where, I tripped over my my foot the other day and I scraped my knee, and then I figured, oh no, I'm an awakened being. Who knows, right?
No. If there's only 5 awakened beings, to kind of go back to the previous bullet point, how did humanity change because of the abyss and the ether if there's only 5 people that can have kind of awakened to deal with them?
Well, that's where you're not like you're only assuming it was 5. You could say Hephaestus was an awakened being. You could say Zeus was an awakened being. You could say anyone in time, or you know what, King Suleiman with his giant onion hat, and decided to conquer all of the Middle East because he felt like now we have the Ottoman Empire. Maybe he was an awakened being.
Well, I don't mean like as individuals. I mean humanity as a whole.
Gotcha.
Political, military, economic, like socially, like.
Gotcha. Okay. So best I can offer to that is eventually over time, and this is something that happened in the world of Red Horizon, which it does get explained. Is eventually there's a point in time that happens that humanity stopped evolving like that. There was no need. So once the threat was gone, or once the threat became less ever present, humanity no longer needed these great things to happen. That's why the earliest, and this is where the youngest, of all of the Guardians is a concept, which is the Rowdy Bunch. It's not a person; it's a concept. Enough people believed in something, but there is a point in time in the Red Horizon universe where there was no longer a need for these great heroes. There was no longer a need for these people, or these people just stopped. Like, just the idea maybe stopped, or like there's no longer a need for humanity to evolve this way, and it was only once in a while too.
So, like, almost like an equivalent of our Dark Ages, where like all these things in the past stopped being physical concepts and started becoming folklore and mythos and dogma, and humanity kind of reset and went back into science, and that's why the world is so much like ours, but has those twinges of magic and differences.
Or perhaps eventually something happened that caused the intervention of the ether of the abyss to become more of a proxy thing instead. Like they perhaps the idea of they pulled back, and now they're doing things more insidiously. Like things in our political climate may be affected by someone on your shoulder going, yes, you should be doing this, rather than direct intervention. Possibly something happened, and that is something that does happen in Villainy.
Well, this ties in perfectly with the next bullet point of, well, if everything's kind of been wrapped up and the influence is diminished, what's causing the dynamic of the world to change moving forward?
So there was, like I said, one particular incident that caused both the ether and the abyss to pull back. So, and this is something that I did not mention at the beginning of the first volume, which I do mention in volume 2. The Cold War never ended in the world that we know as it is. The Cold War never ended, possibly because maybe both sides are influenced by a particular power or actor, right? Things may be pulled in terms of strings and whatnot to where the Cold War never ends because possibly the USSR never had the problems that they did in terms of logistics, and maybe someone was giving us food out of nowhere. Like it's left intentionally vague because it's meant to be more symbolic than anything else.
It's hard to win an arms race when you can keep infernally or divinely upgrading your weapons. Like, my nuke does radiant damage. Cool!
Sick. But does humanity really understand what's happening? No. This is again where humanity has stopped. You know what? I should have said it earlier. I should have mentioned this earlier. Not everyone is spiritually aware and can see these things.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone can see the fact that someone may be having a devil on their shoulder going, talking to them like the actual guardian angels on the devil's shoulder. Normal people don't see these things. So most of the time, people would attribute this stuff to like, happenstance or shit. We don't know how this happened, but for some reason, their supply lines keep getting restored. We don't know. Things like that.
Yeah. So although they can't see it, they feel the ramifications. They feel the presence of the beings.
And I'm kind of talking around these particular points because it's meant for future episodes of this, but this is where I kind of point back to what I was referring to with White Wolf in terms of changeling, werewolf, vampire the masquerade, all that stuff is, what if this stuff just exists and we just don't know it?
Yeah.
What if the vampires in Vampire the Masquerade have like a senator in their pocket? Therefore, some blood banks manage to not have the right amount of blood because it got siphoned. Like stuff like that. Again, let your mind run with whatever it could be. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But like I said, all that's kind of big picture, which again doesn't need to be explained if it doesn't have to. But we're focused on the little picture down here with these 10 people and how it affects the whole thing. And that's really what the end message of Red Horizon is how do you deal with suddenly finding out that heaven was real? Like, how do you deal with, like, how does Brett eventually, like, sitting in his chair in his reading room, eventually walking in, like an angel walks in and talks to him and say, Brett, we need your help, and you go, I'm sorry, what's going on now?
Yeah.
Like, how do you suddenly internalize what just happened? You're gonna go, hold on, splash face with water. Yeah, okay, that's real.
Well, if anime's taught me anything, first I need to establish a harem.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah.
That's all. If the 12 episode of Zekai animes have taught me anything, get the superpowers, establish a harem.
But yeah, like that is essentially what the point of Red Horizon is what if someday you figured out this was real? What if one day this kid who reads comic books and is this pure of heart child who can do no wrong and he's just the greatest guy ever? What if he became the superhero he always thought he would be? How does that say anything about the people around him? What if, like I said at the beginning, what if Wolverine was instead a medical CEO because he found out how to use his X Factor to help people? But at the same time, you have to keep that a secret because if anyone found that out, one, no one would believe you. Two, this would become the worst thing that could ever happen.
Yeah.
Because now you suddenly lose your entire your bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
Because cool, we can rip your liver out, you'll grow a new one, liver transplant. Like, what if someone, and this is, and again explained very early on, what if the CEO of a pharmaceutical company that pharmaceutical company only became successful because the guy who runs it figured out the cure for cancer because he has the healing factor.
Yeah.
Which is only enabled because his best friend, a ghost, is right behind him. He has the healing factor. He has a ghost friend. Who's going to believe him when he said, I can cure cancer?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard sell to your shareholders. So you go, how did you come up with the cure for cancer? Well, I'm functionally immortal, so
yeah. Let's just keep that underneath. And that's again a way it reflects on humanity.
Yeah.
How can you tell that the Abyss or this particular actor for the Abyss has swayed the presidential election? Because it's in like page number 4 or 5. You have Vincent Gray standing right there, and you have someone who strikingly looks like Natalie standing next to him. Perhaps something was different this time around. Things like that.
Yeah, so you got these world-altering realizations happening all the time, and what you're saying is it doesn't matter. Like the big picture is very cool, but we're going to focus on how it affects these key characters.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you can always zoom out and zoom in anywhere you want, which is what Volume 2 goes over. We're zooming out from over here and zooming in over here. What's going on over here? This stuff's still happening. What's going on over here at the same time? That's really what the whole story of Red Horizon is.
You also don't want to go too big too quickly because there's no point like going in with Marvel and like Avengers Endgame as the first book, because you're going to introduce a butt ton of characters that nobody's going to know outside of the set. But what the story is doing here is it's allowing us to build these attachments and these relationships with Reese and Vincent and Lily and Alice and care about them before the tragic things I assume are going to happen to them in the future.
Oh, probably. But the idea here is I'm going to say a hot take, and I'm known for them. Dragon Ball was very interesting. Dragon Ball, you have this very small scale thing. The worst you ever see is Master Roshi accidentally blows up a mountain because he doesn't know how to control himself.
I mean, it's not aged particularly well in some aspects.
It's an anime from the 80s, all right. but when you look at the concepts of what goes on in Dragon Ball, there's very interesting things. You don't have to go very big for it.
No.
Goku gets stronger by just holding a 20-pound backpack and running around with it.
It's also one of those things of like the Mr. Popo like situation where he's wearing all the bells. Like take the move around without ringing a bell. Like, it can't be done. And then he's doing like backflips without a single bell ringing. He's like simple concepts and executed really well. You don't need to go Super Saiyan God 4 to
Now,
tell a good story, but you can.
there is an appeal to that. Don't
Yeah.
misunderstand it. But I'm more focused on like the ideas that was again another inspiration would be Dragon Ball. Here's just an idea, and let's just look at how it works out. We're not going to have to like learn about stuff happening over in South City. We're learning about Goku and Krillin delivering milk in the morning, and that's how they get stronger. In the actual, this is in volume 2. Again, for people there, you can. I love you, people. I would prefer you just read it. But the characters in Red Horizon are seeing like 1/100th of what is possible.
Yeah.
1/100th of what is possible. And that's and if you put that in the context when you read it, you go, it's that small of a scale. Yeah. Like it could be much more. But we've rambled on that part of it. You cut that out if you want to. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
but at the end of the day, how does it change the world moving forward? And we've kind of already established, Enki Technologies is founded on father understanding that his son has the healing factor. As to why he has it, he doesn't know, and Reese is not willing to tell. So they built this entire company that actually helps people. But how does that change things in the world? It sort of does, but not really. Like the best they could do is make people's lives a bit easier, because if they go too overboard, it's going to create problems. Like curing cancer is great. Don't misunderstand that. Curing cancer is awesome. But how does that really affect humanity if they just don't have to worry about diseases ever again?
Yeah.
Like imagine you have the ability to, you, Brett, have the ability to cure cancer in your hand. That just means everyone no longer has to worry about this thing. How does it impact society as a whole?
Yeah, if you've got this ability to not even if it's just cancer, heal anything, people will become more reckless. If there's less consequences for actions, people become reckless. And again, looking at the world moving forward, like I said, if the Cold War never ended, that means that there's a lot of political tension all over the world, and essentially the world is hanging on by a thread. And as you said, there is now Vincent Gray, with the influence of the Abyss through Natalia, in charge of one of the big red buttons in this very tumultuous world.
Now, fortunately, that doesn't really come up in the story, but good. Again, that's where your mind is supposed to wander about these things. And often, and I'll kind of wrap this up here. It's fine to spoon feed your story to a person, but but great novels let someone's mind wander themselves, and you're kind of here conducting them along the story. But when someone says, "Hey, I'm going to go on a revenge story, and I'm not going to murder anyone," you go, "How is he going to do that?" As I refer to my favorite book, The Count of Monte Cristo. That is like hands down my favorite book of all time. How does a man enact all these things that he's planning without hurting anyone, without actually killing anyone? How are you doing a revenge story? And then your mind starts running in circles and stuff. How all of this could happen? And then when you're reading out, you go, "Holy shit! I didn't think of any of that. Oh, what the hell?" And that's really what makes a good story, is that you can say all these things, but if you're just saying it all at once and not letting your readers think about things.
Yeah. If you've developed your world enough, if you introduce enough interesting characters and enough interesting scenarios, there's so much for the people to build on themselves, that you've built this world. It's not just this flat two-dimensional world of, here's character A, their quest is to do this. Oh, they do this quest and they run into minimal interference. But if you go on like the D&D Dimension 20 Critical Role kind of thing of, we'll eventually get round to dealing with the Chroma Conclave, but we also have to help this small village and stuff. It helps establish the actual stakes of the world in a more realistic way.
So for those who have gotten to the end of this episode and thought, man, they're really rambling about nothing. It's sort of important to go over these things and get these ideas in your mind before we even talk anything about the story. Now, probably moving forward from this particular point is I'm going to start going over, and this again, future episodes for people who are watching. I'm going to start going over the actual story, and I'll have hopefully Brett just read one chapter every time we do an episode because the chapters aren't that long. I'm pretty sure you can knock it out on the toilet just going, yeah. And go over what has changed versus what is now. And that's really what I'm going to tell you to set up some expectations. What has changed in the story from what is original versus what I have here. I will go over like certain little bubbles as to what things are going to be. But that's where I can say we can end it off here.
So essentially, you're setting me homework to read chapter 1 of volume 1 before next week.
It's not that long.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Like when I went to Albuquerque, I got 3 or 4 chapters in, but that was almost a year ago, and my brain has gone. I read it, and I remember
in one ear, out the other.
No, it wasn't all that. It's like I remember Reese, and I remember like seeing Vincent's secretary Natalia and being like, yeah, absolute smash. But apart from that, it's kind of
yeah. So if anyone also wants to sit, like, you can read it along with us, and I'll again, much like everyone at home, that's a proof of concept. This is the core ideas. I'm rewriting everything, but not in the way that changes anything about this. I'm more like adding the fat, and I'm adding like that's the skeleton of the story. Yeah. If you actually want to sit here and think about it, but that's where I'll leave everything.
No, that's really good. So next week we'll get into chapter 1, a bit more about the story, a bit more about the characters that are going to be mentioned there, Reese and Vincent, because I do remember like there's a lot about those two and the healthcare company and stuff like that going on along there, and Reese's hectic schedule that he keeps moving around. See, it's coming back. I read it. But as for that, we'll leave it here. I think this was a good hour and a bit diving into the core concepts, messages, and how you took this gumbo of a card set and turned it into a kind of linear story idea, even if you had to trim the fat a little bit with some characters like Roy.
I appreciate you all. You all have a wonderful day.
No, we'll leave it there. So, thanks for everyone for being here. We'll be back next time with the third pattern here. Same homework as I've got for you guys. Go read chapter 1. If you get engrossed and keep reading, that's absolutely fine with it.
Great, awesome. Yeah, if you keep reading, awesome. I love that.
You keep reading, you'll just be ahead for the episode after that. I'm going to go make a start on this, I guess. Maybe I'll ask Cody to record me an entire audio book that I can listen to while I'm driving.
It would be something good. I don't have a voice for a radio.
So just remember, for Theories, News and More, Win, Lose or Draw, keep it Universus. And this is going to be a series. These videos are going to go up early for members. So if you're a member of the YouTube channel, you're going to be able to watch this weeks in advance as well as the rest of the series. And yeah, just keep playing the game and supporting Red Horizon and Cody. We'll see you all again later. Bye.
Later.